protect and manage security. How to modernize, protect, and manage security. That's what the next panel is all about, and it's going to be for 40 minutes effectively. And to moderate this panel, I have the privilege to make welcome the Principal Deputy Director for Management Information Systems and Technology, Central Bank of Liberia. He's none other but Mr. Charles C. Dennis. Please help me make welcome Mr. Charles C. Dennis as he makes his way up for this this panel discussion. While we're expecting him, I think they said he just stepped out. While we're expecting him, I think we can bring up the other panelists. So he will join them. He's around, I believe he's around. So he will just join them. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, also among the panelists for this next panel discussion is the Group Senior Cyber Security Engineer with Mutual Benefit Assurance PLC. He's none other but Mr. Oludare Oshodi. Please help me make welcome Mr. Oludare Oshodi as he makes his way. Is Mr. Oludare Oshodi? Okay, he's still on his way. He's been here. Okay, he's here. Okay. Okay, while he comes, we'll bring him up. Let's have the third participant for the panel discussion. Is none other but CISO Shika365 LLC USA. I believe you guys will know what that means. CISO. It's not about Mr. Bernard Dampson. Please help me make welcome Mr. Bernard Dampson. If he's here, he can mount the stage. Thank you so much, Mr. Dampson. Thank you very much for doing this with us. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as a part of the panelists for this next discussion is the Head Information Technology Infrastructure, Dansa Holdings Limited. Dansa Holdings Limited, and it's none other but Mr. Victor Adiele. Please help me make welcome Mr. Victor Adiele. I think I got that. Adiele, yes. I didn't bother that at all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Is our moderator here now? Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Okay, we have Mr. Charles. We have Mr. Oshodi. Okay, he's join us in a moment. He will join us in a moment. And we have Mr. Bernard Dampson. We also have Mr. Victor Adiele here, ready to fire panel discussion, which says how to modernize, protect, and manage security in this West Africa Hybrid Cloud and Cybersecurity Summit 2023, Day 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please, this panel has begun. Please put your hands together for my panelists, please. Thank you so much.
Good morning. We have a topic here that is a loaded one, right? How do you modernize, then how you protect, and then how you manage security? And so we will attempt to share our experiences on these three key areas of security. But I think to start us off, let's talk a little bit about the evolution of security, and then we can identify where we have been and how to modernize where we are right now. So if we look at the evolution of security, we can start from the early 90s when there were ransomware. But before then, one of the speakers yesterday talked about how in the beginning of security, the concern was just to protect a document, a file. When we have peer-to-peer network as a pathology, we are protecting certain documentations. And if you look at the triad of information security, the very beginning of it starts with confidentiality, where we were making sure that these documents were available to only those who really needed to have access to them. And then so as it's evolved, then we start to look at the integrity of our data. And that's where ransomware and malware start to come in. And then we move to the availability. So then we start to see more advanced threat like the DDoS and the persistent threat. So it's along those evolutions that we find ourselves where we are today. And now, so the next frontier is, what do we do? Because right now we know we are in the space where we've been talking about cloud all of yesterday. and today. So what that tells me is, and also if you look at COVID, it expand network. Our network now, they're boundaryless. People working from home, or we have our solutions and our data within the cloud. So that calls for a transformation and evolution in security, because most of security today is geared towards protecting what's on-prem, trust but verify. That's what it's operated on. How do we go to these very agile protective measures, right, to detect immediately and respond immediately? Is what we're here to talk about and share. And once we have identified those, then we can talk about how we protect, how we manage it, and how we protect. And so I think all of my panelists have been introduced. So I will start off with the very first question. So let me go to my my questions. Forgive me. This is high tech. So my first question, we'd like to first of all start with the modernization of security. So I'd like to talk to Mr. Victor here. Let's talk a little bit about what is modernization when it comes to security.
Good morning, gentlemen, beautiful ladies. I'm Victor. So we're discussing security modernization. I always tell my people, IT is basically English. We try to avoid the high-tech jargons and stick with the basics. Modernization, it's we all know, has to do with ongoing trends. What is obtainable as of today? Like our moderator mentioned earlier on, in the past, security has always been centered towards a single file document protection. Just looking at the basic antivirus within our workstation and ensuring that the file is kept safe. But now, with the threats, with the Internet of Things and the expansion of technology, there's need for the upscaling of those securities. So it has gone beyond just protecting our workstations. It has taken a step further to protecting our enterprise. And not just protecting our enterprise, but also able to, Also able to analyze data, be more predictive, more responsive, and also mitigate these threats even before they do occur. Now, some of the elements that help us to, there are so many elements and components that come into play here, but I'll be focusing on three key elements, which is one, what we call the zero trust. We've heard that mentioned quite a lot here. It's the default state of trust no one and verify all. So what this simply does is it kind of reduces the attack space or the risk area to a minimum, such that if I have to lock these doors because I'm trying to safeguard myself from possible attack, I will lock it to all, including family and friends. Then by the end of the day, I cannot define a policy that will allow my wife in or my sister in. Well, not just stopping at that. Even as they come in, there will be a form of a validation, like a passcode. Are you with my wife? What did I say to you yesterday? Instances like that. So that is where the zero trust element comes in on our way, on our transition to a modernized security solution. Then we'll also have to look at how we can harness artificial intelligence. Because we know the practical way for us IT to mitigate threats is to study logs. And those logs, they can come in quantum. I don't know whether anyone has had the opportunity to look at their CISO monitor service. And you can see the volume of logs that pour in there. So it will take a lot of resources to investigate, to skim through those logs, and try in the hope to mitigate or identify threats. So that's where artificial intelligence comes in. With that, it's we can model the system to be able to not just protect, but detect and even respond to threats. AI, we all know, has taken the center stage now. So cyber security solution providers are also catching in on this to enhance the solutions to give IT space a better environment, a safer place to work. Then we have the cloud solutions, the cloud infrastructure service as well. Now, when I say cloud, we talked about on-premise all this while. Now, the cloud providers, it's more like shedding over some of our responsibility and saying, oh, my cloud partner, I want this level of security. So it is now their responsibility to ensure that my data are well secured. And good enough, there's a practice of the hybrid cloud, multi-cloud system that helps us to containerize some of our services. So even if one gets hit, because cyber threat is not like if it happens, but actually it is when it happens. So we are able to, at least if we get a hit, we know the other containers are still safe. So it reduces the downtime, gives a quicker response time also to diagnosing and resolving the issues. No, all this said, on a level playing field, the whole objective of the cyber security is agility. Because these cyber attackers, they don't sleep. They take it upon themselves to ensure they are ahead of the game. So the security services also needs to devise ways or have defined frameworks and procedures that helps us to also think ahead of all these threats.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned the cloud because as a security practitioner, when I sit here and listen to some of the cloud presentation, it's been very, very educational. If I have my software architecture telling me to migrate to the cloud, and I have my business partners telling me the cost-benefit analysis to move to the cloud and the dollar amount we save, as a security personnel, how secure is my vendor? And how do you prove to me that you're secure? Do you have a third-party assessment that I have to have access to every year to ensure that those security controls are effective? I haven't heard that. And when we talk about hybrid cloud, why are you going to tell me to put my non-critical data in the cloud and keep critical on-prem? If cloud is secure, if cloud is the way to go, give me the confidence and put everything in the cloud. But if you're telling me to put my non-vital systems in the cloud, as a security person, I'm like, why? Something to think about. But as we look at modernization, coming back to the topic, I look to ask about how do you really, because this is a transformation from where we are today, how do you make that case? How do you present that to management to modernize, to move forward, or to improve security?
My name is Oludare Oshodi. So, to present this case to management, first, all management doesn't want to hear about money. I believe that's true. So you must have a very strong case. And I want to believe I have CEOs here and decision makers here. This is a great platform to have decision makers because by the time they get back to their organizations, they'll be able to understand their CISOs more. When the CISOs come to meet them, we need to upgrade the security, we need to change the landscape, we need to modernize. But now that they are here, they will have a better understanding. Okay, a perfect example now. Dennis has rightly spoken about the evolution of security. Yes, I'll go back, I'll bring up a scenario now on third-party vendors, like he has spoken about. For instance now, a third-party vendor trying to have access to your network as usual, and they just still use conventional VPNs. In some organizations, that still happens. Conventional VPNs, they have access to everything within a network and all of that. But with the evolution of the ZCNA, yes, it will check the health of their systems, are their patches up to date, are their endpoint solutions up to date, and it verifies everything. It doesn't just do it at a point in time like a VPN would do. It keeps doing it over and over again. Now, when we bring this to the business case now, this is something that can be placed before management in a way that we need to come back to the basics, that management, we need to look at it this way. If some vendors have threats, they have, we go down layman way. If they have viruses on their system, and we give them the normal access we do give them, VPN, the conventional VPNs might not look at that. The current solution we have might not look at that. So, but technology has evolved in such a way that viruses will just flow through into the system and you not even know something is in your network. So yes, we have the layered approach. What if it fails? What if that server you feel like is being protected, probably that time, it fails? The endpoint solution might not be able to take everything that comes from the vendor systems. So that is why we need to explain to management, make them understand that, okay, technology has evolved, believing, oh, is our vendor, she's our vendor, they have free access via VPN. We need to have a more controlled environment whereby we can verify the health of their systems at intervals. So that's, to an extent, will give management an overview that, okay, I'm understanding you. And what happens if something comes in from third-party vendors? It could be disastrous. Thank you.
And I think that's why when you're dealing with third parties, your contractual phase of that negotiation is very key. What do we have access to? What's the chain of custody and the responsibilities of the third party versus your responsibilities? Where does my responsibility stop for the security of my data, and where does there begins? I think that's very clear. It should be clearly stated in the contract. Those responsibilities are very important to keep things secure. So let's talk a little bit about, you want to add to that, or you want to jump to how do you manage security?
Well, I think I can add a little
Sure,
to
go ahead.
that. Well, also when you're presenting this to management, very often you realize that they are not IT persons. They're seeing IT to be a cost center. But they are business people. They are looking at profit or breaking even. So how do you present this, which is actually going to draw on their profits, to them? So then yesterday's presentation comes in return on investment. We'll need to look at that aspect of what security is bringing in. So we can look at the fact that, okay, for instance, when you take the EU GDPR, they have fines that can go up to about 20 million euros, or 4% of global annual revenue, whichever is higher. So imagine the worst case scenario if you were in the EU. Let's bring that home now. Imagine the worst case scenario, the fines that you could incur if there is a security breach. Imagine what could happen with your competitors if it happens that probably there is a breach or something goes wrong in your organization, where your competitors are constantly there trying to gain that competitive advantage over you. So you bring that to your management team, let them know what this is, what the advantages of the security that you bring in, the technology you're bringing in, what you're presenting to them, and how it's going to protect them in the long run. Because we all know ransomware happened. I believe there was, is it Mestline? Mestline got saved because there was power outage in Ghana, and one of their backup servers was there, and they didn't get hit. So they had to restore from that. Imagine if they didn't have this backup server there. I'm sure they had several servers, but when they wanted to put that backup server there, somebody would say, this is too much, this is going to cost us too much. But today, we have that as an example to say, okay, let's have a third backup site as security. For security, if something happens, we can have something to follow. So we need to look at the savings that we can make in the long run, how we are going to save the organization, give them the competitive advantage. You have company A always trying to let me say, undermine you, always trying to get your customers, etc. But you can now say that, okay, when we have this, we can say that, look, company A got breached. But if we do this, we are not going to get hit like they did. And that is going to be something of a selling point that we can present to our customers, our clients, and to make them come to us instead of company A. And I think this is one way that we can also present this to management.
Now, how do we manage security?
Okay, great. To manage security, I'll say, let me continue from where I've started, where I left off. Basically, for me, security management is about knowing what you have and putting in place things to make sure that security is preserved. Okay? There's nothing like 100% security. I would say security is an asymptote, as the mathematicians will say. You can never have 100% security, but we try to get to 100%. We try as much as possible. So with that at the back of our mind, we come up with gaining that trust from the top level. For managing security, I would say we need to get top management or the board level buy-in, because the tone at the top, what the elders are saying is what the children would do. So get the people at the top to buy into the idea of security. Let them give that directive. Let them give that budgetary allocation for security. Then let me put it this way. We need to lobby them. We need to lobby them. Seriously, we need to lobby them to understand the nitty-gritties of security and what we are trying to bring to the table. Then somehow let them understand it and say, okay, we are bringing this on board. Trust me, very often, if the elders are bringing something in, it is good. But when the children are bringing it in, it's not too good. So let the elders understand it and bring it in. Let them give the policy directives. Let's come up with security policies, procedures to attain or to comply with the policies. Come up with operation manuals, standard operation procedures, etc. When these things are there, documented, then you can go to what I was earlier going to say, know what you have. Do an assessment, know that I have these devices, these systems, these people in there. I mentioned people because security, there's people involved in security also. So when we know all these people, all these things, then we can do an assessment as to what we have, what is security risk they pose to the organization, the impact of any security breach to those things that we have. Then we apply those policies, those procedures, those standard operation procedures to them in order to make sure that we are systematically reducing the risk to acceptable levels. But the key thing here is the risk that we are bringing into the systems, the infrastructure, the risk that the people are bringing in, etc. We are looking at the impact of any breach or any downtime to them, and then we are coming up with a security management system or a set of documented policies, procedures, etc., that will govern or tell us that, okay, when you're going to access any system, for example, you need a password. The password has to be probably this in this format. It has to be this long, etc. Once the top management or the board says, okay, let's have a security policy, it is documented, it gives this number of characters, this is how it should be implemented, then we implement it, and then there's a policy that guides it. Then we can look at things that will push us into complying with these things. I think I can end here.
Yeah. All right. So
My colleague just concluded on right now, because it brings me to memory. Some years past, we used to have this CEO, and I mean, for all the heavens, his password was just a full stop. Yeah, it might seem a wise thing for, being humans, nobody would think that way. But throw that to any passive password breaker, will take you down in less second. So, yes, I agree with you. The CEO, the business owner, needs to get buy-in because that is where it actually starts from. So it now cascades down. Then it makes the job easier for the CIO, for the IT department to sell their solutions. Now, the downsides of modernization, okay, let's look at a little bit of the upside of it because we are looking at improved productivities and most importantly, you get to have you get to reduce IT resources. Reducing IT resources, you have to have
companies updating their SOPs and their security policies. So the question, at the pace at which tech is evolving and modernizing, as we say, how often should organizations do this review, quarterly, annually?
There is no particular timeline to this, but at least if this is being reviewed quarterly, that would be a good start point. So, depending on how the business expands, we need to keep in mind, CISOs need to keep in mind, CIOs need to keep in mind that, oh, now we've added a new solution to the business. We might need to review the controls we have in place. We might need to add it alongside our current baseline, and this would have to filter down at the same time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I will use my veto power to have one more question. Just one more question, and we'll proceed. And let's have that fine. Yes, that fine gentleman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, the panelists, for your insight. Okay, I'm glad the man from Liberia is here, the moderator, and NISTA. We have a resource person, a boss from NISTA, and I love what the other man mentioned about companies trying to undermine each other in security to gain advantage in the market. So it reminded me of a security incident that happened, if my memory serves me right, actually 2015 in Liberia. I think the telecom company servers were knocked offline. I think a worm was released somewhere from Europe. It went. The Liberian internet went off for several days or weeks or thereabout. Then the country was helpless because of the impact and the scope, the magnitude of the attack. They had to rely on the Europeans to wade in. And had the Europeans come in, the war went on to affect servers in Germany and the UK bank. So the critical infrastructure made them to step in and investigate, and they had to get the perpetrators of that criminal incident. So my question is, NISDA and Liberia and Africa in general, what steps have we taken to improve our security? How secure is West Africa? Do we have professionals now that can take on such attacks? And that should be a denial of service, because the denial of service in that country. So what lessons have we learned, and what steps have we taken?
So I think I spent 29 years in the U.S. in the security field. I'm in Liberia today because of that. I moved back a year ago. I think in Africa we have some of the best and the brightest, but most of us are located somewhere else. And if we don't come back, the Europeans will continue to help us. And if you look at it, like Julius Nyerere said, we are the donors. They are not the donors. Because we enrich them with knowledge and power. And I believe we have to come home. And even my son who was born in the U.S., I'm bringing him home. He has a house there and a passport. We're coming home, we're rebuilding. If you look at Ghana and Nigeria, I remember before I left, 30, 40 years ago, they've improved significantly. I attended a summit in Rabat for invitation of the Bank of England and the African region and the Middle East. And what we talked about is just building capacity in Africa. And I know we have everything it takes to do the job, and we will do it, and that's why we're in this room, to make sure we fix it. So, sir.
Okay, let me quickly hand this to Mr. Abu to throw a bit light on that as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What's my Dr. Abu Kolisabu, Director of Research and Development and Leader. Well, what we do in Leader, thank you for the wonderful session. First of all, we help agencies create what they call their cybersecurity policy. We guide them. For example, we have what they call a dynamic information security policy, where, for example, within a certain period of time, your password must change. Second, if you're bringing external devices, there's a policy for that. Some agencies have shut down all their USB ports that you can't plug in some of your flash drives you're getting from outside. And most important, we have what they call the SAT. I mentioned it during my welcome address, Computer Emergency Response and Readiness Team, which NIDA plays a very critical role together with the Office of National Security Advisor. So when we get things like ransomware, we have those information, we try to pass it around as fast as possible, so that people will not get infected. We have some big documents that may come to people's computer, data across the MPAs. So these are information we are now seeing. If you paid attention in the past, you'll see most of the adverts we shoot out on social media from NIDA, alerting the citizens about some of the potential vulnerabilities and threats we have. Because this is a very dynamic and volatile, they keep occurring in different forms as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Agu. Thank you. That's expository. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had so much from this panel discussion, which says how to modernize, protect, and manage security. And it's been a wonderful time with the moderator of the panel and the panelists. Thank you so much for doing this justice to this subject. Thank you so much, and till we see you next time, or till we come to Liberia. Thank you so much. Really, one more time, a lot of president. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, while they are making their way to comfortably have their seats, in case you're joining us for the very first time, this is the West Africa Hybrid Cloud and Cybersecurity Summit 2023. We started this yesterday, and it's been lovely. It's been lovely. We've been doing this. So much has been learned. So much has been taught, and so much still yet to come. And maybe you're wondering, asking yourself, why is this guy